Look at all these beautiful faces. All right, so we're going to get started right away. Hopefully, some of you were able to watch the replay. If not, watch it. It's pure magic. So, this is day 2 of Power Up Your Personal Brand. Yesterday, we focused a lot on building just the creative decision making skills for the story that you are about to tell and present to the world. Because to me, that is the key to building a powerful personal brand. When you're doing any kind of creation, whether it's branding, marketing, or television, you actually don't know how your story is going to land until you actually send it out into the world. So how do you then, just build confidence in your decision-making skills before you send it out into the world? The exercises we did yesterday are very effective at building those skills. So today we're going to put all of that stuff into practice. So Tristan, if you can go ahead, share in the chat the link to the discovery call. Here's something that I started doing when I sign up for these multi-day workshops. Usually on day 2, that's when I'm like, oh, this actually sounds really good. And I start doing the calculations, right? Where am I going to get the money from? How can I clear the schedule? And then before I know it, 20 minutes have passed and I missed some solid gold information. So I don't want you to miss anything that I'm going to share in this next hour. So just open up the link, right? Have the tab open. And then just know throughout the hour, if those thoughts kind of percolate, you've got this in your back pocket. You don't have to take action on it right away, but then at the end of the workshop, depending on how you feel, it's already there, right? You don't have to miss it. You don't have to look for it. So just kind of have it at your disposal so that for the next hour, you can focus and concentrate on what I'm about to share. Because really, what we're focusing on today is, again, how to further build confidence in your decision-making skills, especially when it feels like things aren't coming together, right? Your message isn't landing, you're not seeing sales, you're not seeing results. All of the things I'm about to share with you are how I built the resolve and what I learned rebuilding the Marilyn Denis Show. If you remember from yesterday, we were almost canceled after our first season because the first step of season was so terrible. But it was just building creative confidence in our decision making. That is what actually rebuilt season 2 and beyond, which then launched a 13-year long run, top rated show, multiple award-winning TV show. What I learned in that season and how to make creative decisions with confidence, I now apply that to how I make decisions with my branding and my marketing. So today we're going to do a deeper dive into audience psychology, what's actually happening when you're talking to people, and how to reframe what information you're sharing with people and when. I'm going to share 2 different approaches and also walk through how I kind of course corrected how I promote my own business. The most effective lesson you're going to hear today is how to make creative decisions when you are reading your metrics, when you are looking at the numbers and making strategic decisions, similar to what we did yesterday of how to then just look at what's working for you, right? What do you do well? I'm going to show how my approach to my own marketing and just focusing on what is working and doing more of that, how that's a much more effective way than looking at the things aren't working. And then if it speaks to you and, you're like, you know what, I love your approach. I think this is really going to help me, navigate this dicey time. I'm going to share with you 2 ways you can get ongoing support with McEwen Media at 2 very different price points. So I hear you. I know what we're all dealing with. Let's recap why life feels hard right now. Your personal brand is like a little salmon swimming upstream against 3 powerful forces right now. There's the economic recession, like I've been declaring one for like the last year. Business, households, they just don't have the disposable income that they did a couple of years ago. It's taking longer for people to make decisions. They just need more information. They need more time, which means that your personal brand is now running this marathon. There's also the trust recession. There are a lot of businesses out there that are making promises, a lot of businesses out there that are making empty promises. And as I shared yesterday, a lot of businesses that actually don't exist. They're still trying to take your money. And then there's the attention recession. So you have less time to make a strong impression, and it's harder to leave a lasting impression, to be top of mind when people, are ready to take action. So what I'm going to share in the next hour are more strategic storytelling ways to combat these 3 recessions. Just because these forces are coming at you doesn't mean it's time to give up. It just means you have to find a different way to swim. So let's look at first how people make decisions, right? We know that the recession is slowing things down. There are three key things that people need when they're making a consumer decision. First is awareness. Oftentimes we think in terms of, people have a problem, we have a solution, but there are many pieces beyond that. First, they need to know that they even have a problem in the first place. People will live with their problems for a long time because it is what it is, right? They don't know a different way. They don't know any other way that life can be. So part of your personal brand is educating them that first they have a problem, and it's a problem that they can solve, and that it's a problem that it's worth solving. So that's a lot of storytelling that your personal brand has to do. Then there's the trust, right? Once they know that they have a problem and they're ready to take action on solving it, they have to trust your solution is the right solution for them, and trust that you're going to be able to deliver results, and also that they're going to enjoy the process, right? Who wants to work with a service provider where your personality is going to clash? Like, that's going to affect your outcome. It's going to affect the experience. The most important piece is urgency. Are they ready to take action now? And this is where your client journey comes in. So people, they'll be aware of a problem that they know that they can solve. They know, like, and trust your solution, but that doesn't mean that they're ready to take action. So this is where paying close attention, when people delay action, when people put off working with you, pay attention to their reasons why, because that's giving you solid gold information on the client journey. So the more I pay attention to this, I realize that working with me is an investment of time and it's an investment of money. But the biggest sticking point for people is an investment in their self-image. They know that after working with me, they are going to look, sound, and represent themselves in a completely different way. So it's the willingness to let go of who you are now and welcome who you are going to become. So that piece informs a lot of what I share in my personal branding and my marketing. I offer a lot of empathy and for people who are trying to figure out what this next phase is. So a lot of my work, I don't put pressure on people to take action, even though I do have you'll learn, I have a time-sensitive offer, but that's not the same as putting pressure, right? That's not the same as putting the fear, like, if you don't work with me, this is your life is going to be terrible, your business is going to fall apart. For me, the urgency is whenever you're ready. There are some, like, offering some light coaching, right? It is possible. It's not as scary. It is a nice relationship that you can enjoy. And then whenever you are ready, whenever the stars align and you're feeling ready to go, here's how you can take action. So understanding the urgency, understanding all these things, these three things work together, using that to inform the content that you're going to share and how you build your brand. It's far more sophisticated than problem and solution. Yeah, so this is where, storytelling and your personal brand can help them. So with awareness, you're thinking about education, right? How can I educate people that life can be different? How can I educate them that they even have a problem to begin with? Trust, I can't stress this enough. Be a real person in your marketing. Be a real person. Show up in the client journey. You can automate pretty much everything in your business. Automate what allows you to be efficient and strategic, being the human in the client journey. Figure out what pieces you can automate and what pieces are most important for you to show up and build the relationship. And then the urgency piece, take a look at what you're actually offering people. Are they time sensitive or are they evergreen? And is it possible to build a business model where you're offering both? Spoiler alert, that's what I offer at the end. So when you're talking to an audience, this is the key part of audience psychology. Many businesses understand they're talking to their ideal client, right? This is where, the old school, pick your client avatar, identify where they live, what their education is, how many children they have, what they like to eat, what shows they like to watch. A lot of traditional marketing focuses on who this ideal client is, and you're laser focused targeting on speaking to that person. This model worked back in the day when there were like 4 media streams: newspapers, magazines, television, and radio. Those properties would have very detailed descriptions, ratings data on who their listeners were, who their followers were, who was watching them, So you could actually pinpoint and target, if I take my message to the Today Show, I am speaking to this specific person. So it made sense there. The media landscape today is far more vast and varied. So if you're focusing all of your messaging on your ideal client and your ideal client alone, you're missing out on these other three categories. So your ideal client, how I position the ideal client, is basically more, where are they at in terms of these three pieces: awareness, trust, and urgency. So the ideal client for me isn't a specific person who has a specific family framework who watches specific TV shows. The ideal client is someone who is aware they have a problem, they trust my solution, and they are ready to take action now. That's it. Any other personal details, it's up to them. The size of their business, their gender, their age, wherever they're at, that's part of their journey. The ideal client criteria for me is those three things. My prospects are people who, they are aware of the problem, they trust in my solution, but something else needs to be aligned, right? Maybe the money isn't there for them. Maybe they need to save up for it. There are people who will follow me for a year and then come out of the blue saying, I'm ready for you now. Okay, fine. You need that journey, have that journey. Maybe, Tuesdays at noon isn't applicable. So whatever it is that they need to bring things into alignment, or maybe it's the belief, right? They have the problem, they trust my solution, but they're still building the belief. I know I just need to keep them close to me, connected to my content. I will build the belief with them through my social media. The other really important category to speak to is your referral network. So these are people who know what you do, they trust your offer, but they don't personally have a need for it. And they know people who do. Your referral network is a gold mine. You want to treat this referral network with love and care and kindness, because they will make it faster for you to attract more prospects and more ideal clients. A lot of businesses understand the value of these first three, and they ignore this fourth section. This is where you're losing out on all kinds of growth opportunities. So the first piece, when I first started sharing with people the advantage of going broad and speaking to everyone, it was actually about helping them shift from the media you're used to creating, the media on your social media where you're speaking to your niche audience, versus speaking to a television audience, which is speaking to everyone. When you go broad, you are now more attractive to more platforms that can take you to more people. This is a great awareness shift in terms of making people more aware of your brand and what you do. And speaking to everyone else, you're also always feeding these three categories, because everyone else, because the way that the media landscape is set up, people will encounter your brand multiple times. So in the everyone else category, the reason why businesses tend to ignore this is they don't have an awareness of the problem. And because they don't have an awareness of the problem, they don't care about your solution, and there's no urgency. The first time they encounter your content, they might be in those three categories, right? They're not aware of the problem. They don't care about your solution. They're not ready to take action, and they don't know anyone who does. But the next, human beings are not fixed points in time. So the next time they encounter your content, they might have met someone who now needs your services. Now they're in your referral network. Or their circumstances could change so much that now they're a prospect. Or they could change so extremely that they go straight from being completely unaware. Now they're ready to click and buy. You are a godsend to them. They didn't even know that they need you. Thank goodness you exist. This stuff happens. But if you are not going broad and thinking in terms of people who have no awareness of the problem itself, you're missing out on feeding any of these three at any given time. So this is where how I coach people to think broad. It has those two benefits, right? When you go broad, when you broaden out your specialty and your expertise, you're more attractive to television, and you're in a better position to constantly feed these three categories. So how do you decide what information to share and where and when? So with the ideal client, we tend to focus on, well, this is the offer, right? These are the testimonials. These are the people that I've worked with before. Here are some case studies, features and benefits, all those details. Those details are important in the decision-making process, and they happen at the end, right? The price, the timing, the testimonials, the case studies. Those are all pieces of information that people need to feel comfortable with the decision and to negotiate what they're willing to invest with you. So your pamphlet material, put all of that stuff on the website, right? Have it at the end of the conversation, at the end of the journey, and just plunk it there, right? Don't worry about bringing it into your content and showing up. Leave it to the end. That is the end of the conversation when people are fully invested. They are aware of the problem. They're ready to take action. They trust your solution. You're working out the details. So your pamphlet material, save it for the end. What you are bringing into the personal brand is all of the information that is going to then guide them from this place where they're completely unaware. They don't care about the problem. They don't care about you. Your personal brand is giving them the information to guide them into these spaces. This is where you offer the niched content. This is where you go broad. So you're drawing on your values, your expertise, your beliefs. Another thing that I encourage people to do, instead of thinking about the problem, this is the problem that you have, and this is my solution, think of the transformation. Base your storytelling on the transformation that clients go through. The transformation is attractive, similar to, transformation is attractive for TV. There's a lot for us to talk about in television to take people through a transformation. There's a reason why, like HGTV, their entire programming model is on transforming. We don't cut straight to the before and after. It's the transformation, the journey in between. The transformation, the storytelling that you're talking about and focusing on the transformation is helping people visualize what their life can be. Those three key pieces of information, right? Even awareness of the problem, it's worth solving. This is how you specifically solve it. They need that information while they're making their decision. Here's another thing that I can offer for you. Solve a small problem. So this is, again, where I'll use the same framework with a different audience. So in the broad scale of things, where we have people who have no awareness of who you are, what you do, or what your solution could possibly be, your information is guiding them through awareness, right? They have a problem, they're ready to take action on it. Be aware of the problem and the transformation that you're communicating to people. This is where the alignment of how you want to serve people comes into play. So for the longest time, I had the 3-second pitch, if I get you on TV. It's a great line, right? That's a great tagline. It's people lean in, they want to know more. And, it is technically something that I do, right? I have a background in television. I know what producers are looking for. I have the contacts. So I used that for years. It was very impressive. It made me feel good to say it. Here's the thing that you might not realize. It cost me a lot of business. Because when I started working in human media, yes, technically the first thing I offered was, getting people booked on television. I was working with established experts who knew their story, who knew their stuff, and could be plug and play. So I was basically just like a glorified virtual assistant getting them booked on television. But soon enough, I started getting inquiries from people who had no experience. So they needed coaching and they needed guidance. And that was where I realized, that's actually the space I really, really love being in. It's helping people build confidence and create this story. I really, really love this stuff. Getting someone booked on TV is not exciting for me, but working with them in this phase, in building their confidence in their story and understanding the audience, this is the stuff that I really love. And this stuff can go anywhere. This process can show up in, a 30-second pitch. This can show up in a networking event. This can show up on social media. There are so many different applications for this process. I really want to focus on this process, not the outcome. But I still had this super attractive tagline, if I get you on TV. So even though I'm in love with this process, I'm creating this process is helping people build confidence in their story and delivering this story. I'm getting discovery calls that were falling apart for two reasons. The first part were people who just want to be on TV, right? I'm a dynamic character. I have a lot of followers on Instagram. People love me. I'm fun at parties. You can put me on TV. So they're invested, right? They like the offer, they're ready to go, but they weren't aware that there was part of a process. They weren't aware that being fun at parties and having followers on Instagram doesn't automatically make you a media expert. Because what my follow-up question was, I was like, great, you want to be on TV. What are you going to say? They had nothing. So the idea that they had to work on developing an expertise and developing credibility, that just smacked them in the face. Spoiler alert, I never heard from those people again. If they came to me and they just want to be booked on television, like ordering a pizza and realizing, oh no, there's actually a lot of work that you need to do. That was a cold reality that my content had not prepared them for. I do actually have to take responsibility for that. The other discovery calls that fell apart were people who did need the framework, right? All they wanted was confidence. They weren't quite sure how they wanted to use it, but they just knew that there was a story that they wanted to tell. They wanted my support. They like how I tell stories. They want to learn from me. But because there was still that overarching, I get on TV, they're like, well, I don't want to get on television. I just want to get better on social media, or I just want to be more comfortable on Zoom. And because everything was coded with this getting on TV, they thought the process was too much, more than they could handle. So this beautiful tagline of I get you on TV was costing me time with people who, actually really could have worked beautifully with me. So because that tagline was, this is where solving the simple problem will help bring things down to size. Getting on TV is the extreme result that you can get. But there are so many pieces and wins before that. So in the last year, I've deliberately started training people to see me in this confidence space, in this storytelling space. So all of my content focuses around that. And a couple of months ago, I changed the tagline. It is now building confidence in your personal brand. Simple, beautiful, perfectly aligned with what I offer. So now when people are interested in working with me, the stage is set, right? I've guided them through how I want to serve clients, not just the one thing that I'm capable of doing, but how I am aligned with the offer. So this is where sometimes, a beautiful script isn't quite the right fit because it's not aligned. It has nothing to do with the word choice, but it's just there's not a fit. There's a gap. There's something has gone off in the chain of events of information that people need to get from you. So let's maybe open the door. I think I'm speeding through this pretty quickly. So let's slow down a little bit. Who here wants to workshop offering or bringing down the scope of their problem, bringing it down to size?
I'm like, I'll bite if nobody else is biting. Okay, so let me see. Okay, so I sell brand strategies. So, uncovering the unique and compelling messaging for brands, like so products, services, experiences, companies.
Mm-hmm.
And by unique, I mean I look for like a unique place in the marketplace that they can hold so that they can be
Mm-hmm.
competitive.
Mm-hmm.
But when I worked in the big agencies, it was very easy to sell them because a lot of the clients just understood what a brand strategy was. But since I opened my consulting practice 6 years ago, I work a lot more with small to medium businesses, and they don't necessarily know what a brand strategy is. So I've spent a lot of time educating people on what a brand strategy is, and I turned it into a brand story.
Mm-hmm.
But also, it's pricey. It's like $20,000 to build a brand strategy. It's like there's a huge amount of research that goes into it. It's a 150-hour project. It takes 4 months. Like it's not a small thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I've been trying to figure out ways to like make it smaller so that
Yeah.
people could buy it. And I've thought about the thing that I'm working on now is breaking it up into the individual pieces. Like I'll do a competitive audit for you so that we can identify unique positionings because each step is valuable in itself.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if you have a different, I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if you have a different idea, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
And I think too, I love this idea too of like big and small, because big and small is relative, right?
Hmm.
If you're running like an 8 or 9 figure business, $20,000 to figure out your brand
Yeah.
strategy, chump change. So for them, like that's a small investment, and a
Yeah.
brand strategy, like finding your place in the market, to them on a company that scale, that's a small problem,
Mm.
right? Like what is the white space in the market for a large company with that has a ton of understanding of marketing? That's a small problem. But think of, I call them the baby businesses, like the
Yeah.
person that I was like 5 years ago, where I'm like, oh, I have an idea. What do you mean now I have to sell it? Like, what do you mean I now have to have a loan? What do you mean I have to file taxes? Like, what stuff? What do you mean I have to have, automations and processes? So when you're thinking of someone who doesn't have the full awareness, what is the pain point that they're coming to you? Is it, what,
Yeah.
yeah.
Different things,
Mm-hmm.
different things, but what I offer isn't selling is
Yeah.
normally,
Yeah.
and they know it's valuable. They've had good feedback from people, but it's not selling.
Mm-hmm.
Um, a lot of the time, I see the problem differently sometimes than what they see, because
Okay.
I see that it's clarity around messaging, like they're not saying the
Okay.
right things, but
Okay.
they don't
Hang
always.
on.
Yeah,
Let's slow down a little bit. Clarity around your message.
yeah, yeah,
I asked the people on the call, does getting clarity on your message, is that does that bring it down to size? Does that bring it down to, because bring it down to size is bring it down to the awareness. The people you're speaking to, they sometimes they need the guidance in, like, what language am I looking for? Like, I don't even know what the problem is, but clarity in the
yeah,
message, right?
yeah,
Where do I fit in the market? Hmm.
yeah,
Finding my fit. Yeah. Oh, funny how just that piece of, like, this is how I see it,
yeah,
and just bring it down to, well, here's the first step. Like, this is how I'm hearing your problem. That's
yeah,
kind of where you yourself can bring it down to size.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
That's really helpful.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right. Is anyone else, or are we good to move on? Okay. Because, okay, I'm so excited for what I'm going to share with you next. Okay, so bringing it down to size. So again, this is where the aligned offer, just zooming out and thinking through, like, who am I speaking to? What are they bringing to the table? And understanding what is their awareness, right? What language do they need from me to help understand what their problem is? So now we're getting into metrics. And I'm so glad I checked the time, because I don't want to speed past this. So everything is meaningless except for the meaning you give it. This applies to numbers and any kind of number that shows up in your business and your world. So I'll bring you back then to, rebuilding the Marilyn Denis Show. So to recap that experience, this surefire hit of a show almost got canceled after the first season because the research we were following was flawed. It wasn't aligned with what our host could actually carry and contribute. Not a disrespect to anyone who was involved, right? The research was fine. Marilyn was just a different vehicle. In rebuilding the show, especially in that second season, so the number one ratings, or the number one metric in television, is ratings. So in season one, our ratings were so bad. Every day the research department delivers what are called the overnights. So this is a snapshot of how every show on television rated the day before. There were times in our first season where our ratings were so bad they stopped publishing the ratings because they didn't want us to know. They knew that if we knew how the show, like, I feel like I feel like I'm underselling it, but I'm really not. They knew that if we knew how bad the show was performing, we could not move forward. It is so hard to find solutions, to come up with creative ideas when you're creating the narrative that what you're creating isn't working. It's almost impossible. So not just for businesses who are like solopreneurs, but like even major networks know that this is something that will hinder someone and their performance. Season two, ratings, we had to get really clear about how we were reading our ratings, because in season two, the pressure was on. We knew that we were given this gift of a second chance. We were well aware that we were on the brink. And we knew that if we didn't make it work, it would be the end of TV for everyone involved. Like to screw up a legacy brand so badly, like we knew we had to turn it around. And like it's Marilyn Denis. We loved her so much. We wanted to continue her legacy for her. So we felt a lot of weight and responsibility. I had the beauty and joy. So this opportunity also allowed me to work with a woman named Michelle Crespi. So Michelle Crespi is one of the senior people at Bell Media today. She should write a book on creative leadership because she was the one who taught us how to really turn around the ship. The approach was, because we were in our second season, we had the average ratings data from season 1. So we had a baseline. And then as we were learning the new show and developing a new format, creating CityLine 2.1 or 2.0, we're still kind of experimenting with the format. So the rule that she established for us was, as the ratings came in, any show that performed above or at baseline, we would pay attention to what happened in that show. Her approach was, that is the audience telling us what they want. And we are just going to do more of what they want. We're not going to pay any attention to what isn't working. So if a show performed below the baseline, we ignored it. We only paid attention to what was resonating with the audience. By default, when you pay your attention, when you focus only on what is working, by default, you do less of what isn't working. So you never have to spend time worrying about what isn't working and why it isn't working. When you are the personal brand and what you are expressing is deeply ingrained, like this is a personal expression of who you are shouldering this brand, this framework, focusing only on what is working and doing more of that, is going to help you navigate time when it feels like things are going sideways. So I kind of shared that experience too, where I was when I realized, hey, this beautiful tagline that everyone's impressed by and sounds so cool is costing me the business that I want to do. And I simply changed it. I have this exact same approach to when I manage and make decisions with my marketing. I wish this was a little bit bigger, but it is what it is. So this is a screen grab from a masterclass that I did in November, and I've actually decided to hold it as a working workshop coming up in a couple of months. I call it the Media Audit. So for me, the only metrics that matter in business is sales. So this is a snapshot of the web traffic. For the longest time in my business, I had the belief that I could only build a business through social media, right? It was that simple formula that I think we've all been told. You build a huge following, you get them in your newsletter, you nurture the newsletter, and then you sell to your following. So I thought when I did this audit, I had a lot of judgments because I wasn't selling on social media. I was putting a lot of resources into my social media. I had hired an advisor. I hired a team to help me with the content. I was spending most of my time and a lot of money trying to make social media work, and it wasn't coming together. When I did this media audit, I made the promise. I remember back to that season 2 lesson with the Marilyn Denis Show. Look at what is working and just do more of that. So when I looked at the traffic that was going to my website, which is basically my cash register, by a significant margin is direct. So this is people who are in conversation with me. They're sharing their problem. And I'm like, hey, you know what? This is a great solution for you. Or, I'm delivering a workshop. I'm there live and in person, and they're looking at the website because I've said something interesting that they want to learn more of. By a significant margin, me showing up as the person, right? Hitting the ground, doing the networking, meeting people, expanding actively expanding the awareness by being a real person in the real world is the biggest driver to my website by a significant margin. I was surprised to learn that Google was number 2 because I've never sat down and actually thought through my SEO. It just kind of happens. But I think that also just reflects, again, the aligned offer, right? I have a clear understanding of who I want to serve and how. So I just naturally share content and then have all of that stuff on the website. So words about media training and confidence building and storytelling, all of that is all over the website. The other category that was really intriguing to me was email marketing. Email marketing is the only driver of returning traffic to the website. So when I looked at these three things and I was like, hang on a second. So one of my standards is that I'm very intentional with how I spend my time and how I spend my money. So when I saw that the biggest leader of web traffic is me, for 2025, I just committed to then, okay, I'm just going to go out there. I'm just going to go out and go to more networking events. I joined BNI. So I'm like, okay, this is going to put me in front of businesses every Wednesday. I go to the forum every Wednesday. Wednesday is my networking day. SEO, I just decided, okay, I'm what I've naturally said I was working. So how can I do this better? And then email marketing. This was an interesting judgment. So I had, again, was at that time, the time of this screen grab, I was only sending the newsletter out once a month. Because why? I didn't want to bother people. I didn't want to upset them. I didn't want to show up in their inbox too much. I didn't want to be spam. But when I saw that this is a growth opportunity, right? This is the only source of repeat business. People who are thinking and engaged in my content, they're doing so through the email newsletter. I thought, let's get out of my own way. And now the email goes out once a week. And I decided recently I'm going to do a monthly preview of things that are coming up. So here's how I walked through that judgment, because it's easy to say, hey, I'm just going to concentrate, look at what's working and just do more of that. But when you're surprised and meet that limitation of, well, how am I talking myself out of this? Here is how, generally speaking, when it comes to sales and marketing, anytime I feel that moment of, oh, I don't want to bother anyone, I get curious with it. So I just kind of explore and examine this. I'm a big believer of sell and promote your program the way that you like to be sold to. So when it came to especially the newsletters, I thought, well, where does this belief come from that showing up in someone's inbox is going to be annoying? And I realized, well, it's because, I've accidentally or on purpose signed up for just too many newsletters. So I just went through and did an audit, but was very intentional there. Which ones am I unsubscribing to and why? Why am I unsubscribing to this content? And it was interesting because there were some newsletters that I kept on because I knew that at some point they were going to give me information that I was looking for. So when I decided to then put more effort into the newsletter, that's where I built the new standard. I know that a newsletter that I enjoy reading is rich in content. So that's what I promise now. So if you sign up for my newsletter, you're going to get one big meaty story that is insightful, that is innovative and interesting, talking about media, marketing, storytelling. And then at the end, here are two things that you might want to be interested in. So this is where, even with networking or holding workshops or any of this stuff, how do I like to be sold to, right? How do I like to make decisions? How do I like to be communicated to? The more awareness that I have in this space, the easier it is for me to open up, what feels right and aligned for me. The new area I'm exploring is cold calls. I get cold emails all the time, but when I have that, oh, why are you bothering me moment, I examine what's in that email, like what was triggering me about this annoying message, and how can I do better? Because with direct, like not every message, not every introduction is going to start out cold or it's going to start out warm. Like a warm lead, all warm leads start out cold somewhere. Imagine if I continue to look at these metrics thinking that social media was the most important piece, right? Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Linktree. What do I even have? I don't even know what LinkedIn Android is. So all of these efforts that I'm putting my time and energy into are underperforming. If I held that standard, if I held the belief that digital media is the only way to grow my business, this is a total fail. But when you just when you get neutral with the numbers and just say what's working and how can I do more of it, now my social media, do I have this? Yes. So with this in mind and knowing that direct, being the person, networking, spreading awareness, putting my energy into that is an effective tool. I created value into that. SEO, we're looking into how to increase this little category here, and then email marketing. Those are where I'm, how we discussed yesterday, like what skill are you willing to learn? These are all now valuable skills that I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to learn how to execute these things better to continue growing my business. Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, they're there. They are where they are. So this is also where I kind of pick and choose how I'm structuring my efforts to feed the funnel. So we all know there are 3 phases to the funnel. There's awareness, relationship building, and decision making. This is the client journey, right? Everyone comes to you not knowing you, and they become aware of you. You then develop the relationship, and then over time you guide them to the point of making a decision. When I first started, again, I thought the only way to do this was to get people aware of you on social media. You build the relationship in your newsletter, and then they make a decision, in a call to action or some kind of time-sensitive call. Now I just approach all of my storytelling with just this general awareness, with this general guideline. So anything that I share, so anything can be awareness, right? Showing up to a networking event can be awareness. Some people are discovering me through social media, relationship building, and the decision making. All of this is built into just the content that I share. I know that whoever is coming to me and encountering my content, they're in any one of these 3 buckets. My only job and responsibility is to be consistent throughout, right? I'm not creating these very, limited strategies. There's a lot more flexibility. So in terms of, when I think of awareness, it's networking, it's collaborating with other coaches. So once you start thinking too, well, how else can I create more awareness? When you release the idea that it can only come from one place, now you have this infinite possibilities of where awareness can come from. You have infinite possibilities of how you can build relationships with people. And there are infinite ways that you can guide people to make a decision. I love this stuff so much. Because really, once I could make the connection between rebuilding the Marilyn Denis Show to then just how I can make better decisions in the business, because really, it's so easy to convince yourself that you're not doing well. It's so easy to convince yourself that what you put together is flawed or broken. You're flawed, you're broken. No, it's just about directing, looking at what is working and where you can direct your energy. So is there anyone, we have a little bit of time, so is there anything that anyone wants to go over again? Any questions? Any questions from yesterday? All right then. Well, if you're willing to hear about how I can continue to help you execute these things, here are the 2 offers that I have. So this is not a time pressure crunch, but it is, time sensitive, we'll say. The spring cohort for my media training program, Launch It Loud, starts on April 8th. So there is pitching television as part of it. But over the 12-week program, as you learn how to just see your expertise on larger and larger stages and learn those skills, you're also getting live coaching to both write the new story and clear whatever is keeping the story from being told. So a lot of the experiences that you had yesterday of like, well, just write down what you're good at and how hard that was, right? Imagine going through that process every week with a new storytelling, with a new confidence building technique. So it's a curriculum-based program. That's the only reason why I have it scheduled to happen 3 times a year. So it happens January, April, and September. The new cohort begins April 8th. We do meet virtually Tuesdays at noon. The investment is $3,500, but you get so much. The people who go through these programs, we just finished the cohort yesterday or on Tuesday, and just the feedback that I got of just the overall confidence in showing up. Like one person who was in the program, sure, she's pitched television and she's working on a second round of pitches, but like she shows up and just owns every networking event that she goes to. She delivered a featured workshop to a group of entrepreneurs, and she's just like the people they're able to leave just a lasting impression and lead to more business. That has been so instrumental for her. So this is the Launch It Loud group coaching program, $3,500. That is kind of the, yes, Annabelle, you have a question.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking about like if I did that program, like what could I pitch afterwards? So
Mm,
there's some things on my radar, and you can just let me know if they're like
sure.
if it would work for this. So I want to do more speaking events because one
Mm-hmm.
of the things I've learned is the more speaking events I have, like the speaking
Mm-hmm.
events are my gold. Basically, when
Mm-hmm.
people have an experience with me, it's better than any other medium.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to pitch more speaking events. And yeah, and it's a bit of a laborious process, to do it. So I'm just wondering if this could help me with that.
Absolutely. Yes, it
Okay.
can. So because the pitching, my approach to pitching, speaking, and podcasts is the exact same as pitching television. The thing that especially when you're pitching yourself as a speaker, most people don't realize that you actually do need to pitch them a timely and news sensitive angle.
Ah,
Speaking engagements are actually booked a lot shorter than people realize. So, and they actually want, because they're looking to attract and nurture as many people as humanly possible. Here's the piece of free advice for everyone then. So, if you can offer something that is timely and promotable, and then say, and this is the workshop and everything that I offer, now you're giving them more ammunition to say yes. You're sharpening their event and their experience. So
mm,
even just this morning, I was talking, again, talking to someone about, delivering speaking engagements to her organization. We talked a lot about the tariff. So I actually talked about what I covered yesterday and gave her the recording. And I was like, yeah, I can easily adapt this to being tariff specific. I'm like, I talked generically about the recession. So it is about how you can take your messaging and give it that news hook. The news hook is important not just for traditional media outlets, but it's important for podcasts. It's important for speaking engagements, because it's the news hook that helps people just pin their energy behind it. It sets you apart from the rest. So in learning how to create a news hook for media appearances, it sharpens your pitch for speaking and engagements and for podcasts. The other advantage of your focus is on speaking, because you're not pitching them once. It is about the follow-up and the nurturing the relationships. So similar to pitching media, if you're pitching new ideas on a regular basis, you are showcasing the true depth of your knowledge. There
mm.
are some keynotes out there who, they've put a lot of attention into one story, and that's the one story that they tell. You actually do want to show that you can be a versatile speaker and that you can adapt to, open up to a Q&A. You can give value to people who are dealing with a problem in that moment in time. So that's a great discipline. So, and thank you for that question.
Cool. Thanks.
Okay. So because I'm well aware, it is, we have some recessions, money is doing what it's doing. Here is the evergreen offer that is a little bit more affordable. So people who are joining the Standout Society, they're thinking about Launch It Loud. It's not quite available to them, but they know that with the Standout Society, they can build like the micro skills to build their business and generate revenue and build towards then joining the larger program. So the Standout Society, it's $150 a month for the full year. You get 2 live coaching opportunities. So because I love creating in a group, the first is you get access to a monthly brainstorming session which Farine, you've been to some of those before. So the brainstorming session is just an opportunity to then take your ideas to other people and allow their creative energy to expand what's possible. The confidence that comes from that and that alone is incredible. So people, when they come to the brainstorming sessions, you walk away with, you think you only have like 2 or 3 things to talk about. You'll walk away with like 20, depending on how many people are in the room. And it's just expanding what you think is possible and expanding what you think your beat can speak to. That over time just builds your confidence. You just see your story showing up in so many other ways. So that happens once a month. You also get access to a monthly office hour session. Plus, there's just a full and growing library of courses, workshops. I've been doing these workshops and masterclasses for 4 years now. So these are all available in a full library to get more support in pitching media, building confidence, social media, all this stuff. And if you're using this as a stopgap while you're waiting to join, like in September or January of next year, Members of the Standout Society get a 20% discount on any upcoming events or programs. So, and I mean, honestly, I have micro skills classes, $30 or 30-day challenges to continue to build all the micro skills that you need that tie to, marketing, media, growing your business. So those are two options. You've got the QR codes. Tristan, I think she's got the links to share into the chat. Two options. Both of these are going to continue building on the skills and the awareness and just the opening up of the possibilities that you've encountered in the last 2 days. So if I've changed your approach, if I've given you some confidence in these 2-hour sessions, imagine what could happen over a year. Imagine what could happen over 3 months. Like, come on. So, and my last offer to you, keep in touch. Follow me at McEwen Media. All the information here is on the website, mcewenmedia.ca, and you can message me anytime at media@mcewenmedia.ca, because I love alliteration. Yes, Annabelle, you have another question.
Sorry, more questions. I'm just wondering about the second option there. How many people there are in the groups? Well, I mean, I think in both of them, I'm curious about how many people there are in the groups. And also this monthly office hour session, is that like a one-on-one with you, or is that with a few people who are coming to like refine pitches?
So in terms of the number of people, so I do have a cap of 10 people for Launch It Loud, just to give enough space for people to have their time. Part of the program too is at the end of it, we record an interview that you can use for your marketing. So I do cap it at 10 people for that purpose. In terms of the monthly memberships, the office hours, I then cap that at 4 people max. So the office hours are, they happen throughout the month. So you can take your chance. You either get a full hour with me or you get at least 15 minutes. Here's the thing that I know about showing up with a group, though. Chances are someone else is also dealing with the same problem. Yeah. So even if they're asking their specific question, you're still going to get something from it. So this, courage is contagious. Confidence happens in groups. So yeah, I'm also available for one-on-one stuff. Okay, brilliant. Any questions? I think we can call it early then. Well, thank you so much for being such a fabulous participant for the last couple of days. I hope that I've, given you some new perspective, a new way of approaching your brand story with just more confidence. Because again, what you're doing is right. You're tricking yourself into thinking that it is wrong.
That was wonderful, Tara. Wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. I caught the replay from yesterday and then glad I got to come to this one. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was really great. And it's so nice that you have 2 offers, that are accessible, like depending on what. Yeah. Yeah. It's really nice. Yeah. I like that considerate approach because it's like, it's tougher these days.
Yeah. Big time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've even seen some coaches offer like pay what you can for their offer. I'm like, well, no, I kind of need to, I like a firm number.
I will tell you, I did the pay what you can for the mindful marketing retreats. And it didn't really work out. I had this tactic because I was, I wanted to do it so that I could genuinely give people who were at, different stages. And one of them was like, pay this if you just want to cover my hard costs, like the cost of hiring the retreat center. Pay this if you want to cover my hard costs, plus a small contribution to my time. Or no, to pay the other people working on it. And then the third one was a small contribution to my time. And then the fourth one was, contribute more to my time.
Yeah.
And a few people just paid the hard cost, like they didn't pay, like, so, and I trust that it's because they didn't have the money, but so but that didn't really work out for me.
I know. Well, and I think if people want to stick around and chat, because you also have with your group program, you have a wait list. Because I think, again, like timing the offer, because sometimes people they just need time to think about it. So that's where like my curriculum offer, I'm like, I can hold it 3 times a year.
Yeah.
Right. If January doesn't work, April might work. If April doesn't work, September. So I even had someone she had paid a deposit. She had signed it for April, but her business changed. So I'm like, okay, then September, I'll check it back in with you in August. So I just think like for me as a business owner, if all someone needs is time to then for the start, because especially because the work that I do is so collaborative, if you come into it and you're resentful and feeling pressured, we're starting off from a really, really bad space. So I need willing participants who are ready to go. So that's kind of where I have, it's an evergreen but time sensitive offer.
Yeah.
And then the membership, because I was just, again, from hearing, honestly, I think a upcoming masterclass is like what people are telling you when they say no. The idea for the membership came, and actually opening up the membership came because someone was like, well, I actually need to build my business in order to afford the bigger program. So I was like, okay, well, here's something that I can do that I can offer you, and then include these micro skills. So he's actually a speaker, and I'm working with him on his media, and his office hour session was just a coaching session because he's in the DEI space, and he's like, no one's hiring me. And I'm like, hang on, we're going to reframe how you're showing up for the pitch process. So, which is a long way of me asking, how is the wait list approach working for you in terms of time?
Well, I'm actually switching to your approach. I'm putting my course on every quarter. That's the plan moving forward. I'm just figuring it out because I found last year I ran the eight-week program January to February, and I tried to run it in the beginning of November last year, and I did all the promotion, I did everything, and I had lots of interested people, but they couldn't do the dates, or they couldn't do the time, or the time of year wasn't working. And so I just didn't run it because there wasn't enough people. And I kind of agreed with myself I wouldn't run it unless there was a certain number. And then those people, once I said, oh, I've got January dates, I was like, it was full with a couple of emails. Like, so yeah. So I'm actually going to move to that one. I think there's beauty in the mastery of having a program you run over and over again. Like, because every time I run this one, it's all the little nuances get better. The examples of people's previous stuff gets woven in. Like, it's so I that's what I'm interested in now, because I can see that myself, like as the I suppose facilitator, So yeah, so you're on the winner. I do think I do think wait lists are good if you don't know what the plan is. If you're trying to see, because I have, it's better. I know now from the mistakes, it's better not to run it if there isn't enough people, because then you as the facilitator are coming to the table going, man, I'm not covering my time. And that's hard. So when you talk about resistance with people coming to the table or not being the right time, I think as facilitators, you've got to think about that too. Like, I want to show up and feel really good about everything that I'm doing too. So I think the wait list helps for that, just to see if there's demand.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hello, Emery. I'll send you the replay. We just finished. Sorry.
What?
Yeah.
6 o'clock. It starts now.
I think because you're in Europe, so I think with daylight savings time, there's another hour.
Yeah, so they don't change in Europe until the 30th, because I'm patrolling Ireland right now, and we're on the
We
weird
change next week.
Yeah. Okay. It was a lot of me talking, so you'll get the replay. You'll still get the lesson. You'll still get the learnings.
Guys, I'm devastated. Like, can I just say, as much as any of you love Tara, you don't love Tara the way that I love Tara. And I was so
advocacy for you there.
I was so excited. I was like, oh, a thing that I can attend that's in my budget, because I'm in month 9 of my entrepreneurship journey.
Oh,
I'm devastated. I missed out on 2 days with Tara.
Well, Emery, spoiler alert, there's an offering at the end that will be in your budget.
Yeah, well, because Emery, you did the 30-day challenge, right? You did the 30-day on-camera confidence challenge. Yeah.
If any of you have not done it, do it right now. Yes.
Yeah, we're just kind of sharing and commiserating about the entrepreneur journey, because so much of it is guesswork and it's trial and error. One thing that I do know, especially in terms of having like a timed offer and just like, this is the time, this is when I'm holding it. It actually helps people make decisions. If you give them too many options, then they get confused. So for me, that's where, as a business owner, it's like, well, this is how I want to deliver this service. but then make sure that there are other things happening, because you do want to be able to build in that flexibility. I haven't, because I worked with a coach once where she was talking about when she launched her coaching program. She's like, yeah, I had this group coaching program. One person signed up, so I just treated her like that one person. So that I think is another, but I think that's also just like a values and standards for people. So, you know, I've run the course, the Launch It Loud with like 2 people. They still get something from it. But then it's just for me as a business owner, it's like, well, then how do I then still, cover my nut?
I really needed to hear that. That's so timely for me right now, where I'm fast tracking everything that I'm doing because the stakes are really high for me. It's survive or be homeless. Like it really is that serious. So, you know, I don't have time.
It's pretty much over, but this girl is interesting. She's funny.
Oh, Heather, you're off mute.
Heather.
Yeah.
It is
Sorry,
interesting.
was I talking over somebody that whole time?
No, she didn't realize she thought she was on mute. She didn't realize. I think she has somebody in the room with her, and she was just explaining. And it might be her child. She was just explaining what she was doing.
Okay.
No, it was a bad moment for her to overtalk. Emery, I feel you. There's a lot of stuff happening out there.
So it's like I'm in this place where I'm fast tracking everything. So from my end, it feels chaotic and like I'm not throwing spaghetti at the wall. Like everything that I'm doing is like very intentional, but it's all very fast, which gives it that chaotic feel. And because I am still new at refining my messaging, then I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'm confusing the crap out of my audience right now, and they don't know how to get in the funnel correctly.
Yes. Yeah. I think there's a great book. I'll share in the replay. I'll share a link to the book. So it's called Book Yourself Solid by Michael Port. And the version that I have is specifically for coaches and consultants. So one section he talks about pricing, and I read it at the beginning of the year, which was very relieving for me, where he's like, sometimes he calls it economic pricing. It's like, sometimes you just have to offer something that is quick and cheap, because you just need to. So just like a 30-day challenge, for example, like a $30 30-day challenge is something you can sell quickly. That can sometimes just be the thing to then rebuild your confidence that you have something that, thank you, Tristan, have something that you can sell. So that was kind of, and actually, Annabelle, Talitha and I are going to be doing another live stream on the psychology of pricing, because even just moving from like being, a coach who has, $1,000 offers to then, being comfortable being known for someone who has like a membership for a couple $100. That was another judgment journey that I had to go on. But it was in reading Michael Port's thing where he's like, sometimes you just need to offer something that is easy for people to say yes to, and just have that be your sales focus for a little while, especially when things are tough. And I think that's why, some coaches are offering like, pay what you can, like, let's just keep this boat going.
Lindsay just did a whole rebranding with that same thing.
Yeah. I definitely want to hear you and Talitha talking, because like, what a combo. What a combo. If the rest of you haven't met, her too, like, did you guys meet then at my thing, or did you meet before? Power of collaboration. I love it.
How do I know you?
Oh, probably from Lindsay's community.
Okay, cool.
And the forum. Yeah.
Which forum?
Maybe not then. Lindsay's community. I love it. Like attracts like.
Tara, I have a quick question.
Yes.
Those fees and amounts, they're in Canadian dollars?
They are, yeah.
Okay.
Tara, I'm going to bounce, but thank you so much. This is wonderful.
I have to go too.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Tara. We'll keep in touch.
Thank you. Okay, perfect. Amazing.